Hello friends of YouTube, welcome to episode 2 of How I Made This Beat. In this episode we're going to be taking a look at Oozie. We're going to look at what instruments I used, the mix process, the arrangement, and the automation. Let's hop right into it. Alright, so I'm going to play the full beat one time through so you guys can get a good idea of what we're working with. Feel free to comment below on what type of beat you think this is. To me, I think this is a little Oozie type beat. So with that said, I'm gonna play the song for you guys here.
Zaandam music.
Alright, and that's the full beat. I'm going to get started with the instruments now. So first up we have the 808 in purple here at the top. And I'm going to show you what that sounds like by itself. And I used two different patterns. Alright, and the instrument I used is this 808 Madness from Contact. And up next we have the kick sound, and I'll solo it here for you guys. And I used a sample one with a kick file inside of it. Alright, up next we have the snare. And for the snare, I used a sample 1 with a snare file. For the clap, I just used a WAV file, and I matched it up with the snare. So the snare and the clap are layered together. That's what it sounds like together. Alright, next we have a hi-hat, and I also used a sample 1 with a file in it. This is what the hi-hat sounds like. Alright, next we have the open hat. I also put an open hat file into a sample 1, and this is what it sounds like. Alright, up next I have a triangle, and I put it into a sample 1, just a triangle file, and I'll show you what it sounds like here. Alright, and next I have a perk loop, and for this one I used an expand 2, and I used a preset with 4 sounds layered together. This is what it sounds like. And honestly, I got this by accident. I was trying to find a different sound and I decided to keep this. So it was a happy accident. Alright, up next I have this weird loop. It's just a WAV file. So it's a bizarre kind of alien sound. Alright, and up next I have a pad sound. Let's see here, I used another expand with a choral preset. This is what it sounds like. Alright, and now we have another pad sound. This is my pad 2 sound, and I used the full hand preset with 2 layered sounds together. And this is what that one sounds like. Alright, and then up next I have a trumpet sound. So I also used an expand for this one, and it's the bigger section. It has 3 sounds layered together. Like. Alright, and then up next in red here, I used the ARP, and I used an Omnisphere preset, Radio Tone Melodies from Retroland. And I'll show you what that sounds like. Alright, let's see here. Hold on, was that the ARP sound? This is the ARP sound. So I used Retroland radio tone melodies for the ARP sound. For the flute sound, which I'll play again, I used a signature pluck from the synth pluck. So here is that sound one more time. And I'm sorry about that mix-up. Alright, so that was the flute, and I showed you the ARP as well. So now let's move on to the bell piano. So here I'm using from the bells and vibes section, I'm using Experimental Thought. And I'll show you what that sounds like. Alright, I'm also using a Razer, which is just a simple WAV file. And I'll show you what that sounds like here. I also have it reversed, so it hits and then reverses. So all I did was I used that same file and I clicked Control R to reverse that file. Alright, and then last I have a beat tag, which is this one here. Alright, and that was my WAV file, just a file that I have from a while back. So, and then I also have an automation that I'll talk about at the end, which is a filter effect. Alright, so up next let's get into the arrangement. So I started with one of the pad sounds, my pad 2, and the flute, just those two instruments playing. Here's the intro. Okay, so I play 4 bars. I play 4 bars of these two, and then on the next 4 bars I put in the beat tag and also the weird loop and the second pad, so both pads are going to be playing there. Let's start from the beginning. Alright, so that's the introduction. I needed to build up a little bit in energy. That's why I added a second pad sound here and that weird loop. So now we start with the verse 1 here, and I immediately jump in with the 808 and kick, as well as, yeah, just the 808 and kick. And I took away the weird loop because it was too much if I kept going with it. So here's the beginning of verse 1. Alright, and for the first 4 bars, next 4 bars, I introduce the hi-hat, open hat, and then the triangle later on. Here I switched it up, I added the bells and another trumpet sound here instead of the flute. Back to the weird loop, just to give it some more character. And then I go to this ARP sound. I took out the hi-hats I took them out, and then I cut. So right there I cut the kick, snare, and hi-hats, all the drum parts, cut it off right here. And I did that, hold on a second here. I did that to transition better to the next part, so right into the hook. So I also used a Razer effect here to help me transition to that hook. And yep, that's the first part right here. As you can see, I introduced all the sounds very slowly. And I pretty much do that throughout the arrangement, but in different ways. So as we continue down the hook here, I changed the 808 pattern, so it's a different 808 playing. And let's take it from the hook. We have both pad sounds playing as well at the same time. Here's that weird loop. A riser. And it's going to drop off the riser here with this ARP sound. Then I have a riser to transition the 808 to the other pattern, as well as these instruments. Back to verse 2 now. So we have verse 2 playing out for a little while. I switch it up in between. Every 4 bars I try to switch it up a little bit. So after that weird loop here and the bells, I switch to the pads and the flute. So they're all just moving in and out, weaving in and out with each other, playing harmoniously. I also put this filter automations to switch it up a little bit here at the end. Now we're back on the hook, which is the different 808 pattern. Using a riser to come back to the verse. So now we have another verse section. And it's just a combination of all those instruments playing together in different ways to make it sound more interesting. So okay, you get the point. It plays out through here. And then here's the outro. We're going to start from the outro. Actually, before the outro. So as you can see, everything's playing here at the same time. Or most of the instruments at least. So all the drums and the 808s are playing here together. Now I need to start lowering the energy. So I took the snare off, I took the hi-hats off, all the drum parts, except the kick. Now I took the kick off, just the 808 playing with the instruments. And then the 808's gone here. And this is how I end it. So the 2 pad sounds playing, I drop one of the pad sounds and add the bells. And then I finish it off with a tape stop effect. So that's another automation I did here. I'll talk about that at the end. Alright, so that's the arrangement. Now I'm gonna get into the mix process. So I'm gonna open up the mixer, and we'll start with the 808 in purple. So for the 808, I have that routed to the bass bus channel. I'm using a sidechain compressor with the kick. I'm also using a FabFilter Pro Q2 with a low cut, high cut, and I raise it just before the dip here a little bit. I have Decapitator on the default setting. All I did was raise the drive just a little bit here. And that's the 808. So now we have the kick. And the kick is sidechained to the 808. We have that on the drum bus channel. I'm using a low cut, high cut, and a little bit of a raise here before the dip. And alright, that's the kick. Now for the snare. All I'm using is a FabFilter Pro Q with a low cut, and I rose this frequency here a little bit, and I rose this frequency here. This is for the top end of the snare, this is for the middle of the snare. And that's routed to my drum bus channel. Alright, the clap sound, I have a FabFilter bandpass that I created. This is so that it plays well with the snare, so I only want these frequencies right here playing on the clap. And that's all I have, and that's on the drum bus channel. So for the hi-hat, all I have is a low cut, and I rose the high end a little bit here so the hi-hats stand out more. What else here? Let's see. That was on the drum bus channel. And up next I have an open hat, and I have nothing on my open hat. No effects on there, so that's, but it is panned to the right. So I'm going to go over the panning before I forget, starting back from the beginning. The only things that I panned were the clap. I panned it very slightly to the left here. I panned the open hat to the right. I panned the triangle to the left. And that's it for the panning. So let's see, where was I? The triangle here. So the open hat, I have nothing on the open hat, and that's on the drum bus channel. The triangle is on the drum bus channel, and I have FabFilter here. I rose the high end for the triangle a little bit. Alright, so the perk loop is also on the drum bus channel. And I have nothing on that. No effects. Now for the weird loop, that one's on my instrument bus channel. And I'm using a FabFilter Pro with a steep low cut, and I rose certain frequencies here. I apologize for that, it saves every few seconds. Alright, so let's see. Now I have a pad sound, and I used a FabFilter low cut, and that's routed to my instrument bus channel. And for my second pad sound, I also have that on the instrument bus channel, and that's a low cut as well. For the trumpet sound, I have that on the instrument bus channel. That's a low cut and a high shelf as well. Alright, for the flute sound, it's on the instrument bus channel. And I use a FabFilter, low cut, and a high shelf, but I'm taking out some of the frequencies. And I also used a glitch 2, which is this here. And let me show you before I forget what that sounds like with the glitch. I used the re-trigger effect, and I lowered the volume, so it's not so obvious. So let me play that here for you guys. So as you can see, it's re-triggering on in those parts. All right, so up next we have the ARP, and for that I used FabFilter, low cut, and a high shelf. I used an Echo Boy with the default settings for some delay. And I also used the glitch 2 with reverser and retrigger, so let's hear what that sounds like. I also lowered the volume on these to make it very subtle. Alright, up next we have... Oh, that's also on the instrument bus channel. So up next we have the bell piano, and that's on the instrument bus channel. We have a low cut and a high shelf. I'm using another default Echo Boy for the delay. And I'm using a crystallize with the default setting as well. And I'll show you what that sounds like here. Bell piano. It has a very slight crystal effect. Alright, so up next we have the riser, and that's on my FX bus channel. For the riser, I have nothing on there. There's nothing on it. The beat tag, I have that on my instrument bus channel. I'm also going to be removing the beat tag before the mastering process. This beat has not been mastered yet. So for the beat tag, all I have is an auto tune in the B minor scale with 20 retune speed, 90 humanized, so that it stays within the key of the beat. Alright, that's on the instrument bus channel. And alright, so that's all the instruments. Now we have the effects. We have a plate reverb, which is my usual Valhalla vintage drum plate. We have the hall reverb, the one I always use, very nice hall vintage. And the room reverb, the one I always use, the SARM West Studios Altiverb 7. Alright, I use the same pan man, and this is the movement that I'm using. So for the pan man, I'll tell you what instruments are on the pan man right now. So I believe on the pan man I have the bell piano. So the bell piano is routed to the pan man. Let's see, the ARP is routed to the pan man. Let's see, I think that's it, but let me double check. Okay, so the pad 2 has a hall reverb. The pad 1 has a pan man, and I think it has, yeah, a hall reverb as well. Let's see. And yeah, that's all that has the pan man. Alright. And now we have an imager. After the pan man, we have an imager, which is Ozone 8 imager. And I'm using the multi-band depth to give the multi-band depth preset. And I'll tell you which ones. I put them on the bus channel, so I'll show you here in a second. So next we have the bass bus channel. And this one here has an Ozone 8 imager. And I took out the lows to make the bass mono, to take out all the stereo frequencies. I also have a room reverb on that bass bus channel. For the drum, I have a decapitator with the drum fattener preset, and I have style T. I also played around with all the knobs, so I did a lot of adjustment to this. I have a plate reverb, a room reverb, and the imager effect on here. For the instrument, I have the room reverb, and I also have the imager on there. For the FX, I have the room reverb and the imager as well. Okay, I did not use the filter for this project. I did not use the filter bypass for this project. And the mix bus, I have an auto filter. This is for the automation filter that I was talking about, and I'll show you that later on. And I also have the KHS tape stop for the very end, the automation at the end. Alright, and on my master, I have an Ozone 8 equalizer, and I have a brick wall to take out everything from 30 Hertz and below, and I also have a brick wall to take out 17,000 kilohertz and up. Alright, and the other stuff I have are my standard meter. I have my visualizer here, and also the Hornet song key, and the beat is in B minor. All right, awesome. So now let's get into the automation. Alright, so I only used 2 automations and both of them were on the mixed bus channel. So I'll start off with the tape stop real quick here. So at the very end is when I use this. So let me get to the tape stop. It's this turquoise colored line down here. So the tape is going to be playing all throughout, and at the very end it's going to drop. So this is what it sounds like. See how the tape stopped there? So I have these knobs at the right setting to make it sound just the way it sounds there. So my other automation is the auto filter. And for this auto filter, I only have it one time in the middle of the beat here. And I'll show you what that sounds like. So we're gonna move into it. So it's playing like normal right now. Alright, so that's the auto filter, and this is what it's doing. It's going up this line. And I use this setting right here. Yeah, and that's it. So I hope you guys enjoyed this beat. Thank you for tuning in. And please subscribe to my channel if you guys like this content and you want to see more episodes. That would really help me out a lot. So thank you everyone, and have a great day. I'll see you in the next one. Take care.